Good evening, everyone, to the Fitchburg Municipal Airport Commission meeting, February 21st. It's a little late, 6:15. Thank you all for coming. Commissioners in attendance this evening are myself, Chair Clayton Raymond, Commissioner David Genesi, and Commissioner Richard Liberatore. Also here is Mayor Sam Squalia. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Nick Erickson of the DPW, and Peter Kettle, Airport Manager. Members in the audience are many, but Matt Karen and Jackie Marks are here this evening. We're from Gale Associates. We also have members of, I'm just going to say, FACT, Fitchburg Airport Community, FPA. Thank you all for coming. I will be asking the Commission for permission to take an agenda item out of order if they agree. I want to bring the minimum standards 2.3 from old business to the top of the order, if that's okay with you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you. All right. If anybody would like to speak on any agenda item prior to getting to it, feel free to come up to the podium, state your name and where you're from, and you can speak a couple minutes on the item, or you can just wait for the agenda item to come up. It's up to you. And we're all set there. All right, let's get started. We're going to vote on previous month's minutes approval. Did everybody have a chance to read through them?
Yes.
And do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Second.
Approved. Vote for 3. Thank you. Action items from last month's minutes are basically all on Gale Associates for the environmental assessment draft. And I have it here. We're going to go over it when you come on up. So thank you. Let me get these little items out of the way. Correspondence to the Commission. Anything from... I haven't received anything.
We actually do. We have 3. And basically, all 3 concern all of you guys. It's normally the other way around, but this time it concerns you. Noise. I've had 3 major complaints from residents of Leominster and also Fitchburg. And so bad that the Director of Health for Leominster has been involved as well. So basically, both of these people live on either end of the actual crosswind, whether you're on 1.4 or 3.2. So you're on full power, you're climbing up to pattern altitude, and they live right below. And one of them actually has PTSD. I don't know where they got it from, but they have PTSD. And they'd like us to try and do something. So I contacted Jim Powell, the owner of the flight school, because they are the majority of pilots that fly every single day down there. And I proposed a new flight pattern for Jim, which was to go straight out on 1.4 or 3.2 to pattern altitude before you make your crosswind. So you go straight out, you miss all the crosswinds at usually about 800, 900 feet, and you go straight out, which takes you out over the bus area, the bus park, where there's no habitants living there, and also over the crossway between Route 2 and 190. We trialled it for a month, and it's worked really, really well. And what I've now done is contacted the FAA with this new pattern to get their opinion and adaptation to the chart supplement. So it might become fixed on the chart supplement. So we're being good neighbours. We're trying to be good neighbours, and I've actually told the Board of Health Director that we're waiting for the FAA to come back to us. I couldn't give them a time, but that was of major concern, and we've solved the problem, luckily. So once you see the chart once I see the chart supplement change, I will advise everybody. So please just fly out to Pattern Altitude before you make your crosswind. Okay? Thank you. That's it on the actual correspondence.
Okay. Thank you. Well, that's usually nothing to report and move on, but not tonight, huh?
Nope.
All right. I would like to get to the old business because the majority of the people here are likely here for this. Old business, item D, minimum standards, item 2.3. I think the item 2.3 is particular to the insurance clause in the old minimum standards, but it's still written that way, and it probably shouldn't be. So I just want to bring everybody up to speed because it's been a bit of time since we've talked about this. So the Fitchburg Airport Commission began implementation of an updated minimum standards over 2 years ago. The current minimum standards have been in place since 1973 and are still active but are overdue for an update. I will attempt to summarize the events leading to today's minimum standard draft proposal. I will be brief, but feel if it's necessary as months have passed since the topic has been discussed. Presently, there is a draft minimum standard dated 11 November 21 posted on the city website. It was created by Mr. Kettle, the airport manager, and approved by the Fitchburg Airport Commission. Consequently, the Fitchburg Airport Commission has received much comment from the tenants and others at the airport. The 2011 draft proposed had created scrutiny among many of the airport tenants, primarily centered on high insurance requirements, outdated language relating to obsolete technologies, and references to details defining square footage requirements as it relates to specific commercial users. To help resolve this, the Fitchburg Airport Commission agreed to allow one member, myself, to meet with members of FACT, the FPA, and other interested parties to iron out our differences. In summary, it was determined the three major points of contention should be addressed. The city solicitor at the time, Mr. Vincent Pusateri, suggested the Commission take a separate vote on the 3 points of contention to help create a path forward. The 3 points of contention are as follows. Keep the $1 million mandate on general liability insurance requirement. Remove outdated language requiring obsolete equipment such as film strips, telephone, microfiche, etc. Remove defined square footage space requirements as it relates to land or structure size for current and prospective aeronautical users. And if number 3 did not pass, number 4 was to discuss a variance to get around some of the square footage requirement. Items 1 through 3 were voted on in April of 2023 by this commission and were all approved unanimously. So we moved on. Now, Mr. Kettle, being an aircraft owner and member of FACT, in retrospect, has recused himself on the subject matter to remove any suspicion of self-interest relating to this current update. It should be noted Mr. Kettle had not benefited monetarily or personally from any of the updates proposed to this point, and the Fitchburg Airport Commission has accepted his recusal. As a result of Peter's recusal, it has fallen on the Airport Commission to create an updated minimum standard, and I must say it has been a challenge without the input of an airport manager. Changes in updates can have unintended consequences to aeronautical users. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge this fact and convey to all it has been in the forefront of my thought process while developing this draft worksheet, which I am presenting to the Commission as well as the public this evening. Moving ahead, I and members of the airport community, in the absence of Mr. Kettle, begun discussions to develop updated minimum standards, reflecting the 3 points previously voted upon, but not limited to just those 3 topics. The FACT, FPA, and other interested parties have presented a version of the minimum standards that reflects the members' desires and is consistent with the 3 motions that had been agreed upon in April of 2023. Many thanks to the airport community, members of FACT, FPA, FPA Co-op, and other interested parties for their commitment in all matters relating to the airport. The draft I am presenting this evening is a result of the airport working together to achieve an airport minimum standard that I believe will benefit both the city of Fitchburg and the airport community. There are significant changes in this proposal. It is intentional, as the last minimum standard was drafted over 50 years ago. It is worth noting that the FAA has recently published an advisory circular dated December 2023 providing guidance to airport sponsors or owners as minimum standards are being updated or considered. One significant difference in this latest advisory circular is the suggestion by the FAA, and I quote, "To foster a more receptive environment, the FAA encourages airport sponsors to include aeronautical users in the process leading to changes in minimum standards." This is a complete shift on behalf of the FAA, as the guidance makes no mention to this approach in the previous advisory circular from 2006. In light of the new FAA guidance, I have adopted some of the language and have kept the exact format as presented by the FACT, FPA, and other interested parties in their draft proposal presented to me in the spring of 2023. The proposal I have provided to you this evening is not intended to be a final draft. It is more of a worksheet highlighting the omissions and changes I feel should be discussed in greater detail. I have omitted language, paragraphs, and modified specifics as it relates to definitions, lease space expectations, and many other aspects too numerous to single out. I have included in this draft my modification in blue print and left the original language I deemed to be either removed, modified, in red print. I think this approach will expedite comment, keep the process transparent, and ultimately result in an updated minimum standard that benefits us all. Tonight is the beginning of a dialogue between the members of the Commission with input from FACT, FPA, and other interested parties to create an updated minimum standard I believe will help preserve the general characteristics of the Fitchburg Airport community while providing a safe and equal opportunity environment to all tenants and future applicants of the Fitchburg Airport. My intention this evening is to have the Fitchburg Airport Commission review this draft proposal worksheet and provide feedback at next month's Commission meeting. I will ask commissioners this evening to have a current draft dated 2021 removed from the city's website as it is no longer being considered. I welcome the public comment this evening, and I welcome and anticipate public comment at next month's meeting as well. It is my expectation to post the corrected draft minimum standards on the city's website following next month's meeting. I would be expecting a vote to accept a corrected final 2024 minimum standards at May's Airport Commission meeting. This timeline may be optimistic, but I think it's a reasonable expectation. Thank you very much for listening to that. It's pretty quiet in here. Commissioners, you had a draft sent to you yesterday. Do you have any first comments, or do you want to just review for next month's meeting? And
yeah, I definitely need to give it some more thought. It's a big document. I mean, and I want to go into it, clearly. There's just a few questions I have in it, too, that I've got to reason out myself. But to make any kind of a vote right now would be really premature. So, yeah, definitely, if I can look over it, bring it to the next meeting. I think that'd be a lot more positive.
Yeah, no problem. And if you want to send me comments,
for sure.
Just do not reply all or anything like that.
Language
just
that
to
I
me.
wasn't sure of, and I want to make sure I know the document.
Yeah. There's only 3 of us. We become a quorum pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Matter of fact, with only 3 of us, I don't know that we even should be talking between you and I. So why don't you scratch that? Any comments you have will have to come to the next public meeting.
Okay.
David Genesi.
Well, I echo Commissioner Liberatore's same comments. It's a 30-page document, so just need a little time to look it over. I know my situation might be a little more unique, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Am I still able to provide you my commentary?
So, I'm
Before-
glad the mayor's here this evening. So, Mr. Genesi is going to be stepping down. His tenure ends like next week. However, it's my understanding, unless you get a letter from the mayor stating you're out, you re-up automatic.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to hang on till we get through this, I would certainly appreciate it.
So it's not that he re-ups automatically. You continue the term until you are, once your term expires, you can continue to serve unless you get a letter saying your services are no longer required.
Yeah.
Understood.
Have
Thank
you received the letter?
I have not received a letter
All
from.
right, we're good for this
That
evening's
letter has not
office.
been drafted.
Thank you. Well, that would be, if you can,
Then
I know you expressed interest in, moving on, but yeah, if you could help us out, because I know that you've been through a lot of this over the last couple of years, and it's nice to have some experience.
And we're working on filling the open seats, so yeah, keep me updated on what you'd like to do there.
thank you.
Perfect. Members of the audience, any comment? I mean, you've had almost 11 minutes to digest the 30 pages. Please.
Mark Estabrook, Acton, Massachusetts. I think that's all I have to say.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, first of all, thank you for the completeness of the work you've done here, the transparency. It's very much appreciated on behalf of the pilots at Fitchburg. I did have a chance to look through very quickly, so I'm sure there'll be more thoughtful comments later, but I can point out a couple things if that's helpful to walk through now. First thing I'd like to add, which was not part of any of the previous discussions we've had, is a problem we're running into the airport over the past couple of years where we can have what we call AOG, or airplanes on ground, that are non-functional. They can't fly. Something's happened. And we don't have a lot of mechanics on the field. We have two, basically, that can service aircraft, and neither services all aircraft. So we've had a few cases where people have been on the ground and there's nobody to service the aircraft. And so I had talked with Don McPherson over at Stowe about this, and he said, well, in our minimum standards, every FBO, as part of their lease, is required to provide service to an aircraft, AOG or aircraft on ground, in that emergency, not to service their aircraft in general, but to help solve that emergency. So one of the proposals we would make would be to add to the minimum standards that requirement as part of the lease for FBOs within the capabilities of their service, of course.
Yeah. On page 16, I inputted, FBOs shall make reasonable effort to accommodate aircraft emergency service repair for all airport users.
Thank you. I missed that. Every effort. Yep.
I kind of spoke like needs work.
Yeah. But the intent is sort of there, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, so again, some of my input in blue is sometimes just of a placeholder for my thought.
So on next comment is general provisions, page 4, part 4. Down at the bottom, we're talking about compliance with the airport's minimum standards should be made part of aeronautical service provider's lease agreement. Normally a should would be a shall, but it would be if applicable. The SASOs, which are defined later, don't necessarily have a ground lease. So you may have some operations on the field which don't actually have a lease.
Yep.
On page 6, under the definitions, number 10, independent operators. Just an editing comment here. Generally, we try to avoid putting requirements in the definition, you just stick to the definition, and then later in the document, you get into the requirements. But
Yep.
I'll leave the editing.
Again, placeholder,
Yep.
middle of the night, I'm thinking, well.
Yeah. I'm
you
just
gotta
giving you
write
my
this
quick
down
feedback here as I run
before
through
goes
it. So.
away.
So page 9, number 9, you were talking about some requirements here with regards to the years of the lease and some of the requirements of the lease with the CPIU. All those are fine, but I don't know that you want to create two places where you have terms, meaning you've got some terms in the lease, and now you've put the terms into the minimum standards. If you change one and not the other, then which one applies? So generally, when we think about this stuff, we want to put them in one place and then refer the document to the terms of the other document. So you've only got it in one place. So it's just an editing comment again.
Yeah, so if I will comment on this.
Sure.
So in the language that was presented to me, it says, at a minimum, lease terms shall be, at a minimum, a sufficient period of years that is reasonably necessary to amortize a business investment. So that's a little open-ended, and I wanted to put something that we're not going to.
It's a limit on that.
We're not going to give you an 80-year
Yeah.
lease because you have a $11 million hangar.
Right, and the FAA doesn't allow you to do that
Right.
either. So, no, I appreciate the intent of what you're doing there, and
Yeah.
I don't disagree with it at all. It's just an editing
Yep.
question. So I'm not quite sure how to solve that one, but
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to solve really anything this evening, but I do appreciate the feedback, immediate feedback, actually.
on page 14, under commercial aeronautical activities, and maybe it's not fair to ask the question now, but you had added a paragraph here that starts with the FAC recognizes the minimum standard update may contain, et cetera, et cetera. I just didn't know why that was added, what the benefit was there to the document. Not disagreeing with it, just didn't know. But I'll leave that as a thought exercise. On the next page, page 15, you've increased the size to 1.3, specific requirements under minimum qualifications by service offering. For a new building, it's 1.3 times instead of 1.1 times the building footprint. So clarification, existing buildings, existing leases, does this apply? Or is this new buildings?
So I struggled with this. So this paragraph is specific to an FBO.
Okay.
And an FBO, you have airplanes that they typically fix inside the airplane, in the hangar. They pull it out on the ramp, run it up, adjust the carb, do whatever they have to do, and that takes up space. And we don't want them on the public space. So if you're going to be proposing a FBO, you're going to have at least some space. You have to assume that if you have a 5,000 square foot FBO, you're going to need space for walking around the building, entering the building, working on the aircraft in the front of the building, pulling the aircraft out in front of the building, pulling them in, the whole 9 yards. So I just maybe that would fall under the planning board or in the city before anything is approved, and it would. But I guess if we were going to make a minimum, this is where we had square footage language in the old, the 73 minimum standards.
Right.
And, 1.3 times works great when you have a 5,000 square foot hangar. But when you have a 100,000 square foot hangar, 30,000 square feet is a lot of space extra.
It is.
So
It is.
that definitely needs some thought. But that was my thought process. And the additional ramp space was for placing the hangar, putting, they always have aircraft that are not in for maintenance or are finished maintenance. They don't get picked up right away, and vice versa. They get picked up or they get dropped off a week or two or a month before they're ready to be serviced. Adding, you probably need equal 1.5 times the hangar space for that. And I think if there were to be another FBO that entered the Fitchburg Airport, they should expect to have a piece of property where they can have space to facilitate their maintenance.
I think we'd agree. The only question is how to scale that. As you pointed out earlier, at one size, 1.3 or 1.5 makes sense. At another size,
Yeah.
maybe it doesn't. So, okay.
Chairman, I thought we already had a designated area for pilots to bring their vehicles, the aircraft, and do their work, so they wouldn't be tying up any of the space in front of their hangar, on any ramps or whatnot.
There's really not.
Didn't we say there was going to be a designated area?
Well, there would be a designated area. The thing is, it's not going to be, they're going to have to rent that area. There's a compass rose, there's other spaces where they run the airplane up.
Yeah.
It might even be on the compass rose, I don't know. But this here is for commercial aviation services. This is somebody that's running a business repairing aircraft. And they can't expect to have, the planes that are in half done or waiting on parts to sit out on the ramp, on ramp space that they're not renting or leasing or part of their lease. So that's where all that came from. And I agree. The 1.1 or the 1.5 probably doesn't work, but I know 1.1 definitely doesn't work. It's not even enough room to put a snowbank.
Right.
Okay. So,
Yeah, for an FBO, I think that's probably true. It depends on what those services are they offer. As you said, if it's maintenance, you could expect a lot of airplanes coming in and out.
Yeah.
If it's something which is paint, for example, they tend not to have so many planes.
yeah.
But, okay. Page 16, aircraft sales, that type of a service. So I'm just curious why you added part 2 there, paragraph 2, where the company selling the aircraft would have to assure that there's a maintenance facility available somehow. Generally, when we think about purchasing aircraft, we may go anywhere in the country and go buy an aircraft and bring it back, and we don't think about that that company selling the aircraft, whether it's Cessna or Cirrus, of guaranteeing us a place to go service it, or if they, because
So that was item 2?
yeah, on page 16, have satisfactory arrangements at the airport or at another airport for
Yeah, that's
repair.
in red because I think I want it to go away.
Oh, sorry, I got my blues and my reds confused.
All right.
My apologies. I'd agree with you. That probably should go away.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I think. It's already done. It's just a question. Those are all the comments I have. Great job, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Mark, thank you very much. I know you're probably familiar with this document more so than the commissioners were, so I appreciate the feedback, and we all have something to chew on for a month. That's it. I think having a deadline of May puts a little rush on it and a little sense of urgency. And I think we'll get through it. So I would like a motion to remove the 2011 minimum standards draft that's on the city website for reasons that's no longer being considered. I will motion that.
I will second that.
Rich, we have a vote?
Yep.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience wish to speak on minimum standards in addition? Geez, it's very quiet. Did I do my job, or are you just percolating? So thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it. All right, we're going back to order. Gale review of ongoing work, environmental assessment, and apron design and permit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jacqueline Marks. For those who have not met me, I am an aviation planner with Gale Associates. Here with me tonight is Matthew Caron, the Director of Aviation for Gale Associates. I believe that all of you have a copy of Gale's monthly project update in front of you. So if it's okay, I will go over all of the projects on this list and then move into the presentation portion. So project number 1, the environmental assessment we'll be presenting tonight. FAA and Mass DOT approved the draft environmental assessment for public release last week. So we'll go over just briefly the contents of that environmental assessment, and then we'll request a vote from the commission to allow Gale to move forward with coordinating posting the draft environmental assessment on the website, and maybe even a copy of this presentation tonight. That way the public is able to view that as well. I know part of this project is also the wildlife hazard assessment. I know the next round of site visits are going to be March 8th through 10th. Peter, do I have that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so that's just moving along. I believe we'll have a few more monthly visits to, view the wildlife around the airfield, and I think those should conclude in May. And then we'll move into the portion of the project where you'll receive a wildlife hazard assessment report. So Stacy Grove of New Earth Ecological will then compile all of her findings into a report that we'll present probably at some point over the summer. Any questions? I'm sure there may be some when I give the presentation, but any questions so far? Okay. Hearing none. Design and permitting for main apron reconstruction. I know that we're in the process, or the airport's in the process of obtaining an independent fee estimate for Gale's services. So once that independent fee estimate is received, and Peter, correct me if there's been an update since the agenda was prepared, but once the independent fee estimate is received, if that's within the 10% of Gale's estimated fee, we can move into negotiations. And once under contract, Gale will schedule all required survey geotechnical explorations that support the design. So thinking that that'll probably take place sometime during the April or May timeframe. Upon finalization of the scope of services, soliciting that independent fee estimate and, moving into those negotiations. Any questions?
Just a comment.
Sure.
Please, excuse me. I actually contacted the IFE agent on Saturday, and we had a discussion, and I sent her the documents yesterday, first day back, so.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you,
So it's
Peter.
in process.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Okay. So the groove, seal, and remark runway on page 3, project 3. So the scope of services was approved by Mass DOT. Owen of Mass DOT will be providing the independent fee estimate to the airport free of charge. Those documents were sent over to Owen on the 6th of this month. So same process that was outlined as part of the apron design project will apply to this project. And so we are requesting that the commission tonight make a motion to authorize the chairman to execute a contract with Gale for the above referenced project contingent upon satisfactory contract negotiations through the IFE process.
I'd motion to move ahead with this process. One comment.
Sure.
The grooved runway surface, what's the downside? Or what's the pros and cons?
I don't know that there are any cons, but the pro is for obviously the larger jet aircraft and for friction. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Relating to safety.
Yep.
Yeah.
May I comment, please? Thank you.
Absolutely, Peter.
There is a downside. The downside is that the airport runway surface itself deteriorates quicker than if it wasn't grooved. So we will be coating it more often than we did in the past. Just so that everybody knows, the airport will be closed for a week, and it will be closed and redone with the grooves in it, coating and maybe lines yet. We don't know about the price, but once the lines are cut, you can still see the original markings. It would be nice to have them done again, and this will all be completed by the end of June. We have an ASMP grant. The total cost for this is $410,000. It will make it better for everybody here that flies their aircraft, particularly in the wet as well. When you land, if you're going sideways, those grooves do actually stop you from going sideways to a certain extent, but much better than if it was just flat. Okay? So the airport has to come up with $82,000, which is 20% of the 410, and we made enough money last year to actually pay for it ourselves. So we're good to go, but just to let you know, okay? Thank you.
All right.
Other items on the agenda?
I think
I'm
we need
so
a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Second on
I do have.
On that motion?
Vote, please.
Aye.
It's your motion.
Thank you.
Approved.
Thank you. The other items on the agenda, backup generator, I know Airport and Mass DOT working toward a funding solution. And then the other item we have here is the MedStar legal grant application will be due to the FAA by the 1st of March. The FAA has pushed up a lot of these non-construction grant applications. The deadlines now are earlier than they have been in past years, but Gail is of course working behind the scenes to prepare all the necessary documentation for those.
Excellent. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. So if it's okay with everyone, I'll get into the public information meeting on the environmental assessment project. Pleased to present this tonight to everyone. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details. I just really want to give a broad brush of what is in the environmental assessment and what to look for. That way, when members of the public and the commission view the document on the airport's website, they kind of know what they're looking at and why we're doing this.
Now, we gave you a permission last month to post this on the website, yes?
No, it was still in draft format.
It was?
Yep,
Okay.
it wasn't, it has to be, so the environmental assessment has to be vetted through the FAA, and they actually will approve the draft for public release, so.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's where we are tonight.
Right.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Of course. So tonight we're going to go over a little bit of regulatory background, some definitions, key definitions that you'll see throughout the environmental assessment, the content, environmental impact categories, the different projects that we're evaluating through this process that were contained in the master plan. We'll go over the public comment period and then the next steps of the process. So I won't read all of these, but essentially the environmental assessment is being completed to comply with the National Environmental Policy Act. And this is required when any agency is, or when a federal action is being taken, so federal dollars would be spent as part of these master plan projects. So there are three categories of NEPA, you'll hear me say that a lot. Review, so categorically excluded actions, and I'll get into these definitions a little bit later on. Actions that normally require an environmental assessment, which is what we're doing now, and then actions that normally require an environmental impact statement. So the FAA is the agency that determines the level of review that's required through this process. Categorically excluded actions, these are actions that don't individually or cumulatively have significant impact on the human environment, so they don't require an environmental assessment or an environmental impact statement. These are things like planning studies wouldn't require something like that because there's really no effect to the human environment.
Your upcoming apron is categorically excluded.
Thank you.
So actions normally requiring an EA, the master plan projects that we'll discuss a little bit later on, are falling under this category, and then actions that normally require an environmental impact statement. So actions that would significantly affect the quality of human life as a result of these projects. So this would be something major, right, like a new runway construction or a new airport itself. So nothing that the airport is proposing to do is falling into this category. So you'll see proposed action is a term that's used throughout the environmental assessment. So this is the proposed action will describe the nature of the federal action being taken. So effectively, what are the different projects that are being evaluated as part of this process? The purpose and need, so why are the projects necessary for the airport? The alternative section compares different options, kind of in a similar way to what we had done previously in the master plan, giving different options and then evaluating the potential impacts associated with those options. And then the affected environment. So this section is really the meat of the document. It's where you describe the different environmental conditions that could potentially be impacted by these projects. And just slow me down or stop me at any point if you have any questions. So environmental consequences. So this is where you view, I think this is pretty self-explanatory, the environmental consequences as a result of the projects. Cumulative impacts, so these are considering incremental impacts of the proposed action and also other actions that are anticipated around the airport in the foreseeable future. Mitigation, so any sort of measures that might be taken to address these projects that might exceed significance thresholds that are prescribed by the FAA. We have the list of preparers, that would be us along with New Earth Ecological, who's provided the environmental review, and then list of agencies consulted, so this would be FAA, MassDOT, and the different federal agencies that we had reached out to as part of this process. These are all the different environmental impact categories. I won't read all of them, but things like wetlands, biological resources, plants and animals and things like that. So projects that are evaluated under the environmental assessment, so acquisition of easements, removal of trees, construction of hangars, the relocation of the ASOS, fence replacement and reconstruction, and then releasing that land for non-aeronautical development. I will say that with the caveat of any future projects that would be constructed in a non-aeronautical area would require further review. This is just evaluating the release of that land. Anything missing?
So far, so good.
So the public comment period, assuming that the commission approves this evening, this is not a requirement of an EA process, but it is considered at the option of the FAA official that's responsible, so we're initiating the public review process. And again, like I said before, this EA has been reviewed by FAA, and FAA has notified the airport that this is a satisfactory document that can now be viewed by the public. So the environmental assessment will be made available on the airport's website, or airport's webpage, I apologize, for a period of 30 days following posting, hoping to complete that, by the end of the week. And, just to let everyone know, FAA is not required to formally respond to any public comments, but the final EA will reflect FAA's consideration of the comments. So next steps, draft EA to be posted with a public notice to the city website for a period of 30 days. Public comments will be considered as appropriate by FAA. And then the FAA will make a determination, either a finding of no significant impact, or they could require the airport to move into preparing an environmental impact statement. So they'll make that determination, and then once that is done, we can move to close the project out. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? I know I kind of went through that pretty quickly.
So the completion timeline would be, at best case, would be when?
Probably April. I mean, if we get through the 30-day
Rather quick.
public comment period and there's
Yeah.
not a significant amount of comments,
Yeah.
which I think the document pretty much speaks for itself, but there could be comments. We'll look to address those with the FAA. Assuming the comments are minimal, we'll probably look to close this out, probably April, end of April.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, we'll have to wait for the results of the wildlife hazard assessment too.
That's true.
So we, until the wildlife hazard assessment is complete, because it was completed as one project, we'll have to wait to actually formally close the project out until then. But the environmental assessment portion of the project
Yeah.
should be.
It's 2 sections.
Yeah, the wildlife hazard assessment, that was a year-long study, and that ends in, is
So-
that May?
The last survey will be, I believe, in May, and then Stacy, I'd have to look at the contract, but I believe she has 60 days to prepare the draft, and then that will be brought before, the commission.
Yeah.
And then any sort of revisions that are necessary, from there. So however, I would hope, optimistically, to be through everything by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to retract my April comment and say by the end of the summer.
You would.
Yes, please.
Rich, could you note that, please?
What's that?
See, it's gone.
Let the meeting minutes reflect that I retracted that.
Any other questions, comments, concerns before I request a motion to move forward with posting of the draft EA on the website and initiating the public comment period?
No, wait. You did your job.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will motion to take this draft and put it on the Fitchburg website.
Second?
3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else you need from Gail before we?
Jackie, one question. We had talked, I think, in the fall about a tree issue again was coming up. Is that something that's happening this spring? They're going to reevaluate the perimeter of the airport, the initial tree work that was done, and they said, oh, yeah, we might have to come back and continue to do more of that. If that's done, is that the responsibility of the FAA? Is that something that the airport's responsible for?
The vegetation management is the responsibility of the Airport Commission. In some instances, Mass DOT will assist and fund an 80-20 grant for whatever future tree clearing that needs to happen, but the airport should be keeping up with the vegetation management.
So they're going to be coming back one more time, or is this a
Who's they? What do you mean they? They'll be coming.
environmental people for the tree?
So Mass DOT, I want to say, is it every 3 years? They sort of rotate which airports they go to and take a look at on. I want to say it's every 3 years they're taking a look at the airports to assist and figure out if there are obstructions. And if there are, they typically work with the airports to remove those.
Okay, so this is going to be an ongoing thing.
The vegetation management is
I know-
certainly ongoing.
Initially, we went in, took all the trees, all the obstructions out of the way, did the new runway, and now they're going to be coming back on a regular basis just to supervise and, okay, then that
Correct.
falls, that's going to be falling on our responsibility.
Correct. The airport should be monitoring vegetation to make sure that they're keeping any of the taller stuff down. I mean, the good news is the approach surface rises at a 20-to-1 slope, so it does take an awful lot to affect the approach surface. But the stuff that's closer into the runway ends and the runway safety area, it doesn't take a lot of vegetative growth to become an obstruction. Fortunately, that's typically on airport property, and the airport has the equipment to keep that vegetation down and should be doing so.
Got it, thank you.
Peter, do we do that on frozen ground, or we just do it all summer long? Or do it as labor
Usually both.
allows?
Usually both.
Okay. That's it for questions, Gail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciated. Item 4, Fitchburg Pilots Association. Anything from Peter or the FPA?
Well, we have the
Daniel Walton.
That's right. Daniel Walton, Holden, President of Fitchburg Pilots Association. Nice to meet you, Mayor. Just to remind everyone that Wings and Wheels on April the 28th is going ahead, and we'll be working with the Early Ford V8 Club for that. This year, if it matters, we're not providing food. We're just providing the show static display of aircraft. This is necessary for the event to go ahead because having to have an aviation aspect to it. The second thing, if I can bring it up, is we are planning to go ahead with another aerofair similar to last year on 6/16, which is Father's Day. So we'll send more information to you. I know, Peter, you had expressed some concerns about security, and we had a few people that wandered, out of the way, and that's something we're going to try and take, pay attention to in our plan for security. And Mayor, we'd very much like it if you'd come and join us.
The 16th, Sunday?
It's a Sunday.
What time is it?
Sorry.
What time?
About 3. Yeah.
Aerofest.
Yeah. Aerofair.
Put it in my calendar now.
And similarly, in the past years, we've had local press come and cover it. We've had the fire brigade, and we're still working to sort of coordinate everything. But we'll send more information and let you know, formally.
Yeah, we can put that as an agenda item for next month, right? That would give you enough time?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Daniel. New business, Verigy Sewage Farm.
Well, as you all know, Verigy came into us from the MAMA meeting that I went to late on last year, and they made a proposal to us to actually go in and do a solar farm like we wanted about 9 years ago. But the actual input from MassDOT and also feds has really gone down. There's no incentives as much as they were 10, 12 years ago. But they came in and they had a look. I showed them the site and we went around and they said, yes, we can do this and we can make sure that you get money out of this. So the last time we did this, we got $30,000 as against $300,000 10 years ago. So we're giving them a chance, and they actually did the investigation and they came back with the result that they would really like to supply the electricity generated to the sewage farm. So knowing Nick very well, I contacted him and said, look, this is a proposal. I haven't told them about the property in front of you, just the other side of the river at the end of 3-2. Maybe they could put a smaller one there to totally power the plant. And Nick, I'd like you to comment on that, please, as you told me a little bit earlier.
Sure. So the city has a number of solar developments that are already in place we receive net metering credits to offset the energy consumption at the east plant. So I'm not sure that any future solar development could be applied to the east plant itself, and that's the sewage farm that Peter's mentioning. But that being said, it's still a worthwhile idea to explore to potentially offset electricity usage among other buildings that are city-owned. So now that we're through a relatively busy period in my schedule, I'd like to sit down with this developer and talk through some of the issues and see if there's something that might benefit the city, the airport, and or the DPW.
Thank you.
So basically, they were just making a proposal to do solar to run the wastewater treatment plant. Is that what? And
Yes.
There's enough, they can make that work. There's enough of a plan.
There's not enough of a plan to actually fulfill the total requirements, but they believe it would be 75% of the requirements, and they could offer that electricity at a much less reduced price than what the city wastewater and the DPW is
So
actually
there'd
paying
be
at the moment.
basically two farms, one for wastewater and then one for the airport.
They don't know about the wastewater plant farm yet. That was,
If they were going to make that.
if they were
proposal.
going to, then they may be able to do the whole sewage plant.
Right.
And that's why the meeting's been requested by
Okay.
Nick, so. Okay.
So Peter, I'm going to read into this, there's not enough incentive to put a typical solar array on that area and pay us a lease fee for that property.
There is.
There
But they were, I believe they're looking at an easy way of getting the electricity to one particular place. And I actually discussed it with him, and he said, look, he said, this isn't the be-all and the end-all. This is our first chance, to see if the wastewater plant can accept it. If not, there's other alternate routes. The biggest problem is getting it to the other side of the river, because basically Unitil already has the majority of solar farms supplying them with electricity in conjunction with what MassDOT is saying they're allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just one quick way of achieving it.
I see.
So all this will come out in the
Yeah, yeah.
meeting that,
A lot of moving
when
parts.
we arrange it. Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
Nick, thank you for coming tonight, and
Of course.
Appreciate
Happy
it.
to.
all right. Item 2, vertiport. Boy, a lot of words tonight.
There is. There is.
Vertiport.
You all know that we are replacing the ramp within the next 3 years, I believe it is. At that time, when we had the meeting with the FAA and MassDOT, I requested that why don't we put charging points on the ramp because of all these new electric planes that are going to be coming in. And they turned it down and said, no, it's not their responsibility. That's the airport's responsibility. So my immediate reaction was, well, if we're going to have them in the future, you're going to put a brand new ramp down there in 3 years' time. In 4 years' time, we're going to rip it up and put new electric charging stations in. And they said, yes. So following that, the director of engineering at MassDOT came back, Owen Silbauer is his name, came back and saying, look, there may be a way that we can do a vertiport on the grass side of where the ramp is at the moment. So where you've got that area that was dug out as a receptive area for the rain. And that could be a consideration that they would be involved in. My question to them was, well, if we do that, does it delay the ramp? And they said, yes, it would. So I would sooner get the ramp in all honesty, because I think we badly need it. You guys use it every week. The jets come in here, it blows all the trash, all the rubble, the riprap that's down there, it blows it all over the place. And I think we're in need of a new ramp now, not in 4 or 5 years' time. So I told Owen that we would get a direction from the commission tonight. Do you want the new ramp, or do you want to wait longer and get the vertiport included in the ramp?
All right, I'm going to ask a silly question. What exactly is a vertiport?
It's where the electric helicopters will come down, that the taxis that are going to take people to Boston and Worcester and wherever from the airport. So it's going to be a charging station for the helicopters. They call it a
Saw this on the
vertiport.
Jetsons.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
So this is all new technology, right,
yes.
coming down the pike.
Yes, it is. So do you want to delay the ramp, or do you want to wait, or do you want to get it done? I mean, one good thing is we had a jet coming in last night. He was supposed to be coming in, but he looked at his screen and he said it looks like it's raining in Fitchburg. So he diverted, and it was a Legacy jet, quite a big one. And he said, we can't land on that length of runway unless it's grooved. So the good thing is we're getting the grooving done. So, you know, if we got both done, the grooving and the ramp and the vertiport, then we're almost there, other than the unnamed taxiways that we've got, which are a mess, an absolute mess at the moment, as you all know. But that's, I think, in 4 years' time. So it's all planned there. It's all part of the capital improvement plan, but it's just so frustrating when you know and you use it all the time how bad it is. But there's just not the money. There's just not the money. So
My viewpoint for, delaying that project for an electric helicopter that I haven't seen or even know anyone that owns one would be, no, I am not willing to delay a ramp project for a long shot, in my view. Anyone else?
can I just ask, Matt, that's correct, isn't it? That was the way it was put over by Owen, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
How fast is this technology moving? I mean, that's what we have to ask. You know, if it's going to be something that's going to be an abrupt change to the airport, that all of a sudden they're going to be everywhere, and then we're going to have the runways completed, taxiways all done, and then now we're getting back into, digging up what we've already established as a completed project.
Can I be a skeptic? Is there enough lithium in the world to supply the batteries that are going to power these things, number one? Number two, are there enough power stations out there to supply the electricity to charge them? And the answer to that is really no. And the government's actually said there isn't. But they're going ahead with making all, I guess, what's possible at the moment in design and construction and development, etc., to make it work. So it's I don't know.
I kind of agree with the commissioner. I mean, with the chairman, that we have to take care of our initial needs right now,
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree.
Mayor Squalia, please.
How feasible would it be to run a couple of empty conduits with pull lines under the ramp for any potential future electrical expansion?
They are already there. That was part of the main runway.
Okay.
I'm correct in that.
For the main runway, it is,
Yes.
but not for the apron, though, Peter.
No, but couldn't you come back from there instead of running it under?
So what is the question if we run lines now? If we have conduit there, aren't we setting ourselves up for future expansion?
You could do that, definitely. You could do that. But what they're saying is that it would delay the actual finances to do that, which I didn't understand.
So we have the conduit that runs under the existing ramp now.
We do.
Under the existing runway, not the existing ramp.
No, under the ramp. It has to get to the runway.
Okay.
So it's
Sorry,
run across
yes.
the ramp.
So we can repair the ramp and complete that project without digging it up in the future because we already have lines run under it.
We
correct?
can. But the vertiport is different to having the charging stations that I was talking about for the planes that fly in. The vertiport is just one particular area, whereas where the planes are going to go, it would be all the way down one side of the ramp.
So the vertiport addition after the ramp is completed, what would that entail?
to be quite honest, I don't know what the engineering involves, but they said it's financial. It would put it back a couple of years. I don't know. I can't answer your question.
I'm saying, I don't see how the two are related, I guess. Why can't we do the ramp and then in the future add the vertiport?
We can. We can do that. There's no problem with that. But it's getting the finance again to do it. So if we got the ramp done now, what Mr. Seelbauer is proposing is that we do it all at once, just to make it nice and complete. Other than that, I can't comment. I can't comment. The conduit is already underneath there, you know, to make those connections, albeit it does go all the way along, so it would mean, I guess, digging out grass as against going underneath the runway. So
Sounds like we're set up for the future.
it does, as it is.
Okay.
But the cost is in the actual vertiport because it would be a big extension around on the other side, and that's where the finance is coming from or required from. So
So if we get to that point where if that's a need, then we
we
expand.
can do it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I can't see spending our money and taxpayers' money on something that's a maybe.
Right.
And we know it's at least 4, 5, 6, 10 years away, or may never happen. So, did you get your direction?
Yes, sir. I will tell Mr. Seelbauer tomorrow.
Thanks, but no thanks?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Item 3, runway grooving. How come we already got to that?
I think I covered that
Yeah,
in the earlier discussion.
yeah.
So,
Back, going into old business, item A, RFP on non-aviation land lease update.
do you want to take that, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, go ahead. I've done enough talking this evening.
Okay. Non-aviation update. You're all aware of the land that's being proposed for the non-aviation, which is at the end of the old 02 runway going up the hill, where the car show is going to be in April. There's that, and also the land that goes down Crawford Street to where the beacon is. So in total, there's 16.5 acres of land for development. There was a team formed that included the procurement director, Clayton, myself, Nick, and the development corporation of the city to look at what the potential was. And there's an RFEI, which is a request for expression of interest, was sent out on the 15th of this month. It was put on the city website for people to look at. Mass Development in Boston is also going to send it out to potential customers, potential people that want to come in and build maybe a warehouse, maybe a couple of warehouses and a hotel, maybe a gas station, because there's nothing anywhere near Crawford Street or where we are within the city area. So there's a big development that could go on that would result, if it all worked out successfully, to about $600,000 a year revenue for the airport and over $1.1 million to the city on taxes. So it's all going very, very well. This will be published and it will be taken down at the end of March, I believe. And then it would go out to the people that actually came in. It would go out as an RFP, a request for purchase or proposal. And they would then come in with after the team has looked at what they have to offer, picking the best. There's 3 categories: very good, not so good, and not allowed, basically. And once they've been chosen, then they will go out again, and those people will come back with proposals, just like they've done at Nantucket Airport, where you've got that massive shopping complex right next to the airport, which brings in millions of dollars for the city. So eventually we will not be going, hopefully, we won't be going to the FAA any longer for asking for grants or to MassDOT asking for grants, because we will be totally self-sufficient. And that's the intent of the airport and the commission and everybody else involved. So that's the situation at the moment on the non-aviation land lease. Yes, Mark, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just a quick question, Peter. In the evaluation of proposals for that, does the airport or the city have any ability to select based on appropriateness of that business to that location? What I mean by that is you pointed out the noise complaints that we've got already earlier today. Commercial businesses usually aren't a problem. That's a very common thing at airports to have commercial businesses around or even on the airport property. But I know you're not talking about homes, but if you put a hotel, if you put retail restaurants with people hanging outside, I can only imagine the noise complaints that may then start rolling in. So is there anything in the selection process that allows you to filter out?
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, it will be what the team think is acceptable for that particular area.
Okay.
I mean, included in this is the restaurant, an 8,000 square foot land area right next to, well, underneath where the RVs at the moment. There's already people showing interest in that. And one of them wants to make it like from breakfast, lunch and dinner, a 2-story one with a bar on the top, which will be attracting a lot of people, hopefully not pilots to fly in, but, you know, so it's all looking good.
Okay, so you don't have to go with the highest bidder in this case.
No,
You
no,
can
not at
select-
all.
We
Not
have
at all.
total control over this way,
Excellent.
and the RFEI was, selected to do this, so we had more options, and we could see what our options might be.
Excellent, thank you.
That's it.
Yeah,
Uh,
we've covered B, Rich.
Solar farm,
We've covered that, haven't we?
yep. Item C, land lease, N Holdings, which is people known as the Life Flight.
Yeah, the life flight. Yeah, you've all seen the hanger up, the doors on. They've got the partitions in there. The mayor actually came in there and had a look the other day, and it's coming on really well. The anticipated completion date is end March, mid-April. So things are going really well there. And incidentally, with respect to the minimum standards, they actually pay for another, I think it's 1,700 square feet to park their hangar out on the ramp where the yellow lines go, and they're actually paying for that. So it's bringing revenue to the airport.
Great.
You did minimum.
We did, yep, minimum standards. I'm not going to do that again tonight. Item E, Crawford Street safety update. Now, Nick is right here.
Yeah, so not a whole lot of new stuff to report. I did visit the site in the field with Sergeant Boudreau of Fitchburg Police Department. He's the traffic sergeant. What we did notice is that along certain sections of Crawford Street, there's an earthen embankment that basically serves the same purpose as what a Jersey barrier would do. Keeps cars on the roadway if they happen to veer off the pavement. So that's another possibility to consider in lieu of guardrail or Jersey barriers or rumble strips. But what we're waiting for right now is some feedback from Mass DOT. They offered to take a look at the site, some of the proposals that we've come up with so far, and offer some guidance. So once I've got that feedback from Mass DOT, that's when I think I'll put it back to the commission, and hopefully we can get some resolution.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, not only from a safety standpoint for the cars, but the cost to the city on repairing the fence and the safety of not having a fence there while waiting to get repaired. And we are going to be looking at probably a taller and more expensive fence in the near future, and we're trying to get this squared away because it's like every 40 days somebody's hitting our fence.
Right, and so we talked through some of the options with Sergeant Boudreau. I know we've discussed at past commission meetings. So if we install the guardrail there, it's kind of shifting the problem from the airport specifically to the DPW. Yeah. Same problem exists. Cars are going to hit it. It's going to require repair. Guardrail's a heck of a lot more expensive than a fence is.
Yeah.
Rumble strips, they might help, but by the time someone hits a rumble strip, it's kind of too late. It's really more designed for a highway application than it is for a 40-mile-an-hour roadway like Crawford Street. So I don't think you're going to see much benefit there. I think really either an earthen embankment, Jersey barrier, or guardrail is the solution. I guess what's the most effective, both cost and safety-wise, and that's what we're hoping to get a little more clarity on from Mass DOT.
Okay.
I think the biggest problem there is, Nick, that a lot of people believe it is a highway. And that's the problem. That's why, I think the rumble strips might help. But that's up to the police department and you guys, so thank you.
Yeah.
Item F, Hangar Building 1 and Hangar Building 18 lease update.
Yes, the Hangar Building 1 has come back to the airport now. We've actually enticed 3 more people, additionally new people, to the airport to come in. Hangar Building 1 is now full. Hangar 18 has gone back, well, is staying with Rich Corley and Jake Woodford. Just something on Hangar Building 18. The roof was leaking quite badly. All the downpipes, the drain pipes, were non-existent in a lot of cases. And over the winter, it's caused havoc because the water's got in, it's cracked it all up. And so we've just spent money on that and repaired that hangar roof and the downpipes, drain pipes. And also Hangar 13 had a big problem with the cables. They stretched, and we actually put up a sign nobody could go in there because it was dangerous. And we've had all those cables replaced as well, so it's now working really, really well. It's top shop, and also at the same time, we prevented the leaks that were going down on the Queen of the Fleet. So that's all been done. So that's good news.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. Item F, financial review, approval of commitments and abatements.
Yes, we've got some.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Well, first time in a long time.
Yes.
There's 3. Customer number 1 was Darren Dugai. I'm sure a lot of you know him. He's now an instructor with the FCA. We'd actually charged him an additional month, and he hadn't been in the hangar. So there's an abatement there of $398, which I have signed, and you have to sign, please, sir, and then I can return it to the treasurer. The second one was William Tice, Bill Tice. He was billed for a tie-down that he hasn't had for last month. So we owe him $98.64, which I've signed, and you need to sign, Rich, please. And the third one was airport trailer sales. You know, airport trailer sales doesn't exist anymore. It's big techs. So airport trailer sales actually had $181.22 on the books, which I'm proposing as an abatement, just to get it off the books, because the new owners have just paid $21,000 cash for this year. So there's those 3. But if you could sign them now, please.
So you're all in agreement with all of this?
Absolutely.
It doesn't look...
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So I'll take a motion to approve these abatements from the commission. Motion, second.
Second?
3-0.
Excellent.
Thanks, Rich. All right, executive session. There isn't one this evening, and if there were, it has to be set ahead of time. So, note of that. Date and time of next regular meeting is March 20th, 6 o'clock in this building. Roll call to adjourn. Aye.
Yes, we're good to go.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Appreciate it. It's 7:34.